Do zombies leave a ghost behind when they're finally killed? What if there are aliens in the universe, but they're less advanced than humans? All of these questions you can find the answer to on this Paranormal Life! Hello everyone and welcome back to This Paranormal Life, the comedy paranormal podcast where every week we investigate a brand new paranormal tale and come to a conclusion as to whether or not it truly is paranormal. Kit and I, we dissect the mysteries of the universe. We answer the unanswerable. And every week we deliver that answer to you in the form of an audio podcast that is borderline unlistenable. That's part of the mystery. You know, like the ancient monks of old, you have to train for years to be able to withstand a weekly episode of This Paranormal Life. So if you've made it this far, 30 seconds in, and your brain isn't exploding with paranormal knowledge, you're doing good so far.
This is why AI is coming along. This is why ChatGPT, OpenAI are flooding the market, is because we can't compete with that type of shit. You ask that motherfucker question, it will give you an answer. Sometimes the answer will be wrong. A lot of the time it will be wrong, but it'll give you a definite answer. You ask me and Rory a question, you're getting a 1 hour, 15 minute MP3 file with gunshot sound effects, Indiana Jones theme tune, no copyright.
Yeah.
No copyright to use that theme tune.
I used ChatGPT the other day to figure out the correct way to reheat spaghetti. It told me to kill myself.
Which is, in fairness, is actually spot on. Because if you had got this far in life, it was like, so what age are you again? Oh, you're 33? Definitely end your own life then. Because if
you're
you
asking
don't know
me how to reheat spaghetti?
Yeah.
Just for yourself, one serving of spaghetti because you live alone? ChatGPT was like, okay, yeah, scanning the internet, gathering all information on Rory Powers and his contributions to humanity. End it. And there's nothing here. It seems like you've only added pain and bad things to the world.
You don't deserve the spaghetti.
So yeah, until ChatGPT can do a full podcast, we're here. You want the human touch. And that's what we bring to the podcast every week. For example, Kit, these intro questions. What if there are aliens in the universe, but they're less advanced than humans? Have we ever considered that before?
Rory, you are accidentally asking pretty much the most profound question in all of the science of trying to find extraterrestrial life, the Fermi paradox. Why have we not seen extraterrestrials? We're looking for them after all. And the biggest question of all is there a great filter, they call it, which is creatures, humans, extraterrestrials, their civilization develops and they evolve as beings to a certain point, and then they hit that Brita water filter that just, I guess, is arguably where we're at right now, which is we're smart enough to, yes, build spaceships, but also smart enough to build bombs to kill each other with.
Oh, I see.
So the bombs kind of get us before we ever really reach the stars.
Right.
Maybe that is the great filter, the reason we've not seen anyone, which would, by definition, mean all aliens are kind of the same or less advanced than us.
Wow, that's kind of poetic. We become smart enough to self-destruct. That's pretty beautiful.
I mean, it's beautiful if you're writing a Linkin Park song or something.
Right, yeah. One step closer to the edge. I mean, is that nicer than going to another planet in the universe, realizing that there is life down there, and you arrive on the spaceship like, this is incredible. An alien civilization that must be light years ahead of where we are. And they're like, oh, guys, you're just in time for the witch trials. We're about to burn these witches. You're like, okay, let's back up in the plane. We're too early. Give them another couple hundred years.
It's like, I saw one of you guys teleport on the way here. You guys must have some futuristic shit. We found that in an asteroid crater somewhere. Yeah, that's the only futuristic shit we got. We're actually just inventing the wheel over here.
Yeah. Teleport. Hey, guys, we got another witch. It's like, no, they're the smart ones. Kill the witch.
Yeah, what's with you guys in that T word? To teleport? What is that?
Yes, we don't know if there are aliens yet. That is what we're here to decide on this podcast. And let me tell you, we might be getting close to coming down on a conclusion after today's case. Because today's case, yes, of course, is one of aliens, UFOs, and quite a dramatic instance that's happened in paranormal history that I cannot believe we haven't covered yet. Kit, as you know, we don't like to ramble too much at the start of the podcast. We've got an incredible paranormal mystery to dive into today. So hell, Why don't we do that right now?
Cut the malarkey.
Right after, a quick word though from today's sponsors, and a reminder that you can get every episode of this podcast ad-free on patreon.com/This Paranormal Life. Our story begins on the night of August 26th, 1979. We're in Minnesota, and Deputy Sheriff Val Johnson is on patrol, cruising the cold and empty highways of Marshall County. It was an uneventful night, like most nights on patrol in this sleepy corner of Minnesota. Johnson rolled down a desolate stretch of the county highway, keeping an ear on his police radio for any requests.
Got a call about a possible 1057. Neighbors saying they heard a gunshot around midnight.
Oof, I'm not going near that one.
Nearby units, we have a 1091E animal bite in Marshall County. Be advised the raccoon is still loose and very angry.
Whew, sounds a little dangerous too. I guess I'll just keep patrolling. Little did Johnson know, by the end of this night, his life would be changed forever, and it wouldn't be via a raccoon. It was 1:40 a.m., and while driving, Johnson spotted a strange light in the sky. Dispatch, this is Deputy Johnson. I'm seeing some kind of aircraft over Highway 5. The light was flying very low and only getting lower as it drifted towards the earth. Johnson was worried that it could be a plane making an emergency landing, so he turned left onto State Highway 220 in pursuit of whatever this thing was. Johnson started gunning it down the road, getting closer and closer to the strange light, which at this point was soaring only 4 feet off the road in front of him.
4 feet?
At this speed and this distance, it was hard to make out just what this thing was. But little did Johnson know, he was about to get up close and very personal with this light. Without warning, the light changed direction, jetting back down the road and straight towards Johnson. He yelled, "Oh!" as the light flew directly into his windshield.
Yo!
Bam! There was a huge impact. Broken glass was sent flying everywhere, and Johnson lost consciousness. Johnson! Repeat, Johnson, this is dispatch. Johnson, do you copy?
We got 1199. Officer in need of assistance.
What the hell? Johnson awoke in his car. His head was pounding, and he could barely open his eyes. When he did, things weren't looking good. The windshield was smashed, the hood was dented, and the car itself was now sideways across the road, almost drifting into a ditch. He checked his watch and the car's dashboard. Both showed that he'd been completely unconscious for 14 minutes. He pulled himself together and reached for his radio to call the sheriff's office to request an ambulance.
Jesus, what happened to you, Johnson?
He replied, I don't know what happened, but something hit me. Kid, today we are investigating the Val Johnson UFO, one of the most important UFO cases in American history.
So important, we've never heard about it until the 8th year of this Paranormal Life investigation.
I can't believe this didn't come up earlier. As soon as I started researching this, I'm seeing all these articles where they're saying, oh yeah, by the way, UFO enthusiasts say that this is the case.
Right.
This is the one that they use to prove to people of the existence of UFOs.
Hey, you know me. My name is on a list somewhere. The government has me on a list saying that I am easily impressionable.
Yeah.
Easily angered. A threat to those around me. Stupid. You put that in a little witch's cauldron, mix it all up. You've got
Kit Greer Mulvanna.
a potential terrorist.
Right.
A potential domestic terrorist, but thankfully not really. And I'm just a batshit paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to get me excited about UFOs and to start, twitching my curtains late at night, flashing the torch into the sky as if that would make a difference, trying to find UFOs.
Hey, we're on the same page. I'm on a list too, brother. Fortunately, I'm just banned from every Chuck E. Cheese on U.S. soil.
I think that's a different thing.
Well, it's pretty more similar than you think. You're on a list because you don't obey the rules. So am I.
Right, yeah. I don't really... Let's not get too derailed because...
I earned more tokens than any child has earned in a single year.
Is there any Chuck E. Cheese that isn't on U.S. soil?
I don't think so.
Because
so
I'm
I don't
sorry,
think they had to classify
it
that.
seems worrying to me that you've started looking into kind of other territories. You're like, I mean, is Alaska counted?
There's gotta be one
Is Hawaii technically U.S. soil?
There's got to be one in Canada.
Because the
at
judge
least.
said U.S. soil, but this is you on the dock. But is Puerto Rico definitely considered U.S. soil?
Do you know the name? We've talked about this before on the podcast. Do you know the full name of Chuck E. Cheese? The mouse?
It's Charles Entertainment Cheese.
Charles Entertainment Cheese is his name. And I only know that because
is literally his middle name.
he had to use his full name in the court case against me to ban me from the Chuck E. Cheese.
You're like, you f***ed up, Charles. You gave me your government.
You're going to get doxxed. I know where you live because I've seen you in the restaurant dancing with a banjo like you own the place. Kit, this is a huge investigation today, and I am prepared to win you over and make sure that at the end of this, you believe this event really did happen. How am I going to do that? Let's start today right with a bit of physical evidence.
Oh, straight off the bat. Okay.
Here is a picture of the scene of the crash. I have a photo of Val Johnson's car that was taken that night where you can see it skidded off the road and into oncoming traffic.
Hell yes, brother. Really excited that you're bringing some first-hand kind of evidence to the case so early on. That is almost unprecedented. This photographer needs to walk the 12 meters that he is standing away from the vehicle because this is a shot of a car for sure, sideways across a road. Definitely jauntily parked, let's say, as if there's been some kind of incident.
Yeah.
It is quite far away.
Well, you need to have the context of the skid. I believe that's where the skid started, and that's where he ended up on the other side of the road.
Where's the skid? Please illustrate the skid to me.
Well,
No,
zigzag there.
that's a fault line in the road. I think that's just.
It's hard to see. This was taken at night, but the skid is there.
There's no skid.
There was a skid.
I'm sure there was a skid, but to be
Maybe
that doesn't really. Yeah,
So, yeah.
maybe there. You confidently pointed to a visible crack in the road, which is only one line. A car has 4 wheels.
Luckily, Kit, if you go onto the Wikipedia article for this event, they actually include a dramatic reenactment of the event created with computers and CGI. So if the first picture didn't win you over, here's a reenactment that you can find online of the event.
Why is there so much lens flare? I'm sorry. This is a computer-generated image. I think this is...
It's just to give you an idea, because the first one, look, it's not that exciting. A car skidded off the road. We don't have a photo of the light hitting the windshield.
This is
so yeah, we had to make it with computers.
You made it with Ridge Racer for PS1, I think. Yeah, this is a cartoon. This is a video game police vehicle being explained. Do you know what it looks like? It actually looks like, you know, those recreations from like Chinese news channels where they make like CGI recreations of what happens.
It does look a little bit like a cutscene that would play at a bowling alley.
Yeah.
When you bowl like a gutter ball and it shows a cop car exploding and you're like, what did that have to do with gutter balls? Is the ball the cop? Or is the pins the cop car? I don't understand.
And there's about 16 layers of J.J. Abrams style lens flare in this image.
Oh yeah,
for some reason. Cool. Completely irrelevant, I think, to what's happened.
Just to give you an idea, as I feel like the
you
reenactment
really
was
might
very
as well
dramatic.
have said, "Here's a children's illustration of after we described the incident to him. Here's what he drew."
I just want to make sure you mentally can picture how devastating this accident was.
I mean, it's a car sideways on a road.
No, it
Parked
borderline
sideways.
exploded.
No.
The windshield
Hard
cracked.
to say when the photographer stood 25 feet away from the car.
He was scared to approach
Clearly.
in case the light came back. Johnson was taken to the hospital for a medical examination, and immediately he was displaying some strange symptoms. Most notably, his eyes. He was showing symptoms of something called corneal flash burn, also known as welder's burn. Whatever this thing was that hit him, it was so bright that on impact, it literally burned his corneas.
Wow.
Yeah, which is already very strange. You're not getting something like this from even headlights on full beam. This is such a specific type of symptom to have. It must have been caused by something so unbelievably bright, mere inches from his face. Now, Johnson was a little shaken up, but aside from a bruised body and burnt eyes, he seemed okay.
Well, Mr. Johnson, there's nothing else we can do for you tonight. You're free to go home.
Thank God. My wife is probably wondering where I am. I mean, it's almost 4 a.m. for Christ's sake.
Actually, sir, it's 4 a.m. now.
What the? Johnson looked down at his wristwatch. 3:46. His watch was running 14 minutes slow. But when he came to in the car, his watch had matched the clock on the dashboard of his cruiser. He checked it himself. It turns out, Johnson had been unconscious for almost 40 minutes. But for some reason, both his watch and the clock on his cruiser were running 14 minutes slow.
It's such a small interval of time for the doctor to be like, it's like, well, sir, you seem to have passed every physical test. I believe you were free to go home. It's like, yeah, that's great because it's almost 4 a.m. after all. Hold on, What did you just say? I said it was almost, it's 4 a.m. now, sir.
This is worse than I thought.
Nurse, get in here. I think we need to run a few more tests. No, I get it. It's like, right.
No, it's closed.
I get it. It's like 15 minutes to, no.
Strap the patient down. We're going to have to amputate. Amputate what?
He's showing severe signs of psychosis. Sir, you are very confused.
Start cutting. We'll figure out where the problem is eventually. Start cutting?
He's whispering, remove the brain. It must be studied.
Start with the penis. It's like, you must know that can't be where it's coming from, even if it was a problem.
What did you just say? Almost 4 a.m.? It's like, yeah, I'm pretty tired and confused, mate.
I just want to go home. I finished my coffee. I need a coffee. We gave you tea. It's like, I don't know what you gave me. It was a hot water in a cup. Strap him down, nurse. Kit, what we are clearly dealing with right now is a famous instance of missing time.
Uh-oh.
That's right.
Sound the alarm.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
Smash a plate. Mazel tov. It is missing time. It is that time, which is missing, of the year when in an episode we see one of the hallmarks of many a great UFO encounter. Or
yeah.
I said UFO. I don't know if I mean that yet. But typically it is associated with UFOs, where someone, faints, blacks out, whatever you want to call it, and their experience of reality doesn't line up with them facts.
I mean, isn't this crazy though? It seems like the clocks being stopped and running slow were completely isolated to Johnson himself, his watch and his car. Nothing else has been messed with. Really just what was on him at the time when he collided with the light.
Yes. I mean, I suppose lots of possibilities here.
Just one.
It really? I mean, it could have been kind of just, if we're talking about clocks missing 14 minutes time, it could have been...
clocks? 2 clocks simultaneously?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose they are likely to be running on some kind of quartz battery. So there may have been electrical interference that stopped both of them around the same time and then started up again.
We're talking about a police cruiser here, all right? Those things are locked down. You're not tampering with that clock.
Isn't this 1979? The thing probably ran on 2 baked potatoes and a lemon with wires coming out of it.
Yes, the bottom of the car was just a hole where he could run Flintstone style to get from crime to crime.
Yeah, but never do. But hey, I'm not saying it's not paranormal. I'm just saying what is the actual mechanism here? You know, before we... I assume jump into he was teleported to planet Xenon for 14 minutes and then came back. I'm just saying maybe it is a UFO craft. Maybe there was some kind of Matrix style EMP, which, do you like my sound effects? Knocks the clocks offline momentarily, then brings them back online.
That's true. That is a possibility. I mean, that in itself is still pretty extraterrestrial.
Yep.
Pretty mysterious, but it could be a possibility. I am also still finding it very hard to move past the image of Fred Flintstone working as a police officer. Solving crimes in his Flintstone car. Showing up to a crime scene where someone got bonked on the head by a club. Yeah. And they're like, Officer Flintstone, we're going to need backup. All right, I'm on it. Wilma!
And like he's in the middle of investigating like the crime scene of like a triple murder suicide. And then he looks at his watch, it hits 5 p.m. and he's like, he slides down the back
really
of
need you to keep
diner.
working.
No, he clocks off immediately.
Now, talk of Johnson's UFO encounter spread through town like a wildfire. Paranormal enthusiasts and UFO experts were coming from all over to investigate the site and Johnson's squad car. Johnson himself was even thrown into the spotlight as the Marshall County UFO became front-page news.
It was 1:40 a.m. Deputy Sheriff Val Johnson was on patrol in rural Marshall County when suddenly he saw a bright light a few feet above ground level 2 miles down the road.
I traveled about a mile, and the light seemed to intercept me, so to speak. Came right upon me. It was painful. The light was extremely brilliant and painful. I closed my eyes and I heard the sound of breaking glass, and that's the last I remember.
He sounds way less cool than you were trying to make out, by the way. I think in Rory's reenactment there was a lot of, what the hell?
Yeah.
What is that distant light? As deputy sheriff of this town, it is my duty to track this thing down. In reality, he's like, well, I guess I had a few minutes to kill, so I thought I'd track this thing down.
I was just finishing my Sudoku and figured I'd take a drive around the block. And yes, he is in true 70s, 80s style. He does have a mustache and very thick-rimmed glasses.
Yeah,
around
the
his head.
glasses your nan would wear, for sure.
But what we're seeing here is he's a normal guy. He's an average Joe.
He's a normal guy. I'll give him that.
Johnson was unconscious for 40 minutes before he radioed for help and was taken to the hospital. A doctor and later an eye specialist confirmed that Johnson had suffered mild welder or flash burns to his eyes. Even stranger, both Johnson's wristwatch and the electric clock in his patrol car had mysteriously stopped for 14 minutes. An investigator from the Center for UFO Studies in Evanston, Illinois, flew in to examine the damaged patrol car. There was no evidence of radioactivity, and neither the investigator nor the sheriff can figure how the two spring-mounted antennas became bent at almost 90-degree angles. At the scene of the accident, skid marks show Deputy Johnson coasted for 800 feet after impact before applying the brakes.
Skid marks. There you go. We have them.
I can now for
Footage.
the first time see skid marks.
Yeah,
I
just
just
wanted
had to
to
laugh because they were trying to show the damage to the car. I think
Substantial.
I feel like you described this light smashing through. I don't know what sound effects Phil has put in for this episode. It felt like to me this thing was being smashed to bits, like he hit a brick wall.
Well, I did also show you a CGI image where the car was exploding.
Yeah, it
in
was
a
like it
ball
had
of
been
fire,
hit by a
yeah.
bazooka. Whereas I think there was mild damage to the windscreen. I don't think it was cracked or smashed at all.
Devastated. No, it's completely obliterated.
I don't think that's true. And they had to do a close-up that the wire antenna of the car was, yes, bent at 90 degrees.
At an unhuman angle.
I don't think that's true.
It would be a sick freak that would bend an antenna at that angle.
I actually can speak from complete experience that I bent, sadly, the antenna on my 1991 Mercedes E-Class Estate when I forgot to retract it and I went through a car wash. So I know exactly what it takes to bend an antenna, and it's not much.
The car wash, did you hit it at 90 miles an hour? And at one point the car wash was going away from you, but then it turned and went straight into the windscreen?
It was actually an automated car wash in which the kind of, it was really like a soft brush.
Right.
It was kind of just very slowly going over the car,
Not
and
that
that
dramatic.
did indeed bend the antenna.
Okay. That's disappointing, yeah. Thought it was going to be a little more crazy than that, similar to today's case.
The skid marks are real. Skid marks are real, as you would expect. He did dramatically skid off the road. We don't know much beyond that, but beyond just the crash itself did happen.
The area around here has been searched, but nothing's been found. All kinds of small airplane theories have been bandied around, but Deputy Johnson clearly remembers hearing no engine noise. And nothing explains the 14-minute lapse in the two timepieces, nor the peculiar bending of the antennas. It's a mystery. Or, as the UFO investigator from Illinois said, it appears to have been a close encounter of the second kind. Jillian Rice, Channel 5 Eyewitness News in Marshall County.
Wow, that was a piece of information I think zoned out over, but was reminded of in the video, that he coasted presumably unconscious for 800 feet, she said.
A long distance.
That's a really long way. What the hell?
I'm getting so excited just watching that clip back. There's so much weird shit going on. Not just the clocks going out of sync, not just the burns to his eyes from an object unbelievably bright, but as you said, the coasting and the fact that afterwards they searched the site of the crash and there's nothing else there. You know, if he did hit a drone or a military jet or a plane, there'd be scraps of metal, shards of glass, tons of stuff all over the place. But seemingly there's nothing.
Yeah, and bringing it back to the cruising, I mean, it's just odd because it means he was presumably instantly knocked unconscious by whatever this was, whether it was because he had to stop suddenly but I guess he didn't stop. He kept cruising. So this thing was so bright, he just went unconscious.
He got flashbanged
for 40 minutes
in the middle of the road.
Very unusual and unlikely.
Are you guys getting fired up today?
No,
this is
not
crazy
yet.
What we're talking about. Oh, I shouldn't be wearing this baseball hat. I should be wearing my tinfoil hat.
Right.
Because we're only getting started.
Well,
the story's gonna get weirder.
I hope
it's
we're
gonna
only
get even
started
crazier.
because nothing paranormal has happened yet.
Any second now.
A guy blacked out.
Hey, I should put on a pair of sunglasses real soon because there's about to be some red dot sight lasers pointing right at my head. I'm going to be assassinated before I can finish this episode of the podcast.
Was he breathalyzed, by the way, after this impact? You know, is it possible he hit a kestrel and he was drink driving? So then he was like, oh, I saw a light. Oh, it was crazy.
He didn't
you
hit
smell
a
of
kestrel.
whiskey, sir.
Well, believe it or not, Kit, this case was taken very seriously at the time. The Marshall County Sheriff's Office carried out a full investigation into the incident that even involved the Air Force, who confirmed that there were no aircraft scheduled to be anywhere near the area at the time. They even roped in an expert from the Ford Motor Company who inspected the damaged car. Unfortunately, this just raised more questions. For example, the windshield had been hit so hard that you'd struggle to do the same damage even with a hammer. To make matters even weirder, the point of impact on the windshield was so low that it meant that it couldn't have been Val Johnson's head that hit the windshield.
It's like a golf ball hit it at 100 miles an hour and he was driving fast and it smashed it to bits. Something relatively small with a lot of force hit this thing.
Went through it. Like, this isn't a crack in the windshield. It looks like it, completely penetrated it.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, no, because then it would have been in the car. So,
well, maybe it was. Maybe it was, kid. Flashed him pretty hard.
Do I have to listen further into the podcast to find out? I mean, I'm willing to guess it might not have gone in the car, given that it also dented the antenna, bending it backwards.
That's very true. As the following weeks unfolded, Johnson appeared on radio shows across the country and even Good Morning America. But eventually, it all became too much for him and his family. In fact, his wife, Roseanne, came out in the news and said, "It's completely disrupted our family." Eventually, they even moved out of town. Now, Val Johnson's story is regarded by many experts as one of the most important UFO encounters of the last 50 years. But we've been in this game a long time, Kit. When it comes to UFOs, we're not ready to get probed on the first encounter, if you know what I'm saying. We need a little bit more than that. So imagine my surprise when I start researching UFO sightings in Minnesota and I come across 3 of my favorite words. Project Blue Book.
Uh-oh, forget the alarm I sounded earlier. Let's get another alarm in here. Whoa! Project Blue Book. That is ASMR for listeners of This Paranormal Life.
That's right. And probably people that listen to this podcast saying, hey, guys, we're really far in. We haven't even had a halfway ad break. That's because we're just getting started. You just heard the blurb. You just read the first bullet point.
I'm aware. Nothing paranormal has happened. We're all aware.
Nothing paranormal?
Nothing paranormal.
A man was flashbanged by an alien cruise ship.
A guy drank too much Johnny Walker Black Label behind the wheel of his station wagon and blacked out coasting for 800 feet and then had to come up with some sort of bullshit story to not lose his job. Maybe that's what happened.
And that's how he got welder's burns on his eyes? How do you explain that?
He
You can't. That's right. And I would fight Kit more, but I don't need to, because I know that when we come back from the break, we'll have so much more overwhelming evidence that he will be a yes by the end, just like all of you. So, how about a quick word right now from today's sponsors? As I said, Kit, we are just about to bring Project Blue Book into today's case. Now, at this point, I shouldn't really have to explain what Project Blue Book is, but just in case you are maybe joining us for this week's episode and you don't know yet, in 1947, the government created a secret task force to investigate UFOs, some of which have become the most credible and infamous UFO encounters of all time. Because yes, this project and its research were eventually declassified, which means I can tell you that Val Johnson's experience wasn't the only encounter of UFOs in Minnesota. It was all just the tip of the iceberg. So let's get into them. First off, we have the Minneapolis UFO. Back in 1953, 2 Air Force pilots and a civilian reported a bright, glowing, unidentified object hovering in the skies above Minneapolis. Unlike Johnson's case, this object stayed stationary, hovering in place in complete silence. Confusingly, the men said it was, quote, about the size of a pea held out at arm's length. What? Yeah, it's a really bad way to describe anything.
A pea?
It was about the size of a pea held at arm's length.
Oh.
But I guess they must have been saying...
Oh, perceptually in the sky.
Yeah,
okay,
right?
Okay.
They didn't just see a floating pea, glowing pea.
That's what I was worried about.
If it's the size of a pea, don't bring it up. Don't mention it. I don't care if it's lighting up like a Christmas tree. Don't mention the pea. Because anyone you talk to about the object, it's always going to have the same trajectory. You're going to be like, hey, I saw this thing, an unidentified object in the sky. It made no noise. It was traveling at incredible speeds. And your friends are always going to say, oh my God, how big was it? How big was the object? And you're going to have to go...
Yeah, and it was going
yeah.
so fast, and I think it was a kind of metallic. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And so it was made of metal? How big was the craft?
Yeah, probably normal size. So, and it was making
normal
this
size,
sound,
because they can get pretty huge.
Right, and the sound was like, so it was probably
That's
pretty
weird.
big too. So yeah,
Well, it's weird for an object presumably the size of a bus to make a sound. Make a sound
bus,
like a
maybe
bumblebee.
like a minibus or even a. Yeah, I guess it was smaller than even a car. Really.
What did it look? What did it look like?
You ever seen corn? But not the cob.
The cob.
Right. Like a single kernel. No KFC.
Have you ever seen a Tic Tac? That's sort of what it was. Maybe smaller. Cut a Tic Tac in half, and you're getting close, but smaller still. After about 30 minutes, the object disappeared into thin air. When the Air Force pilots reported the object, control tower scanned the sky, but nothing was detected on the radar, possibly due to the size. That was just one example of another UFO seen in Minnesota by military personnel. Kit, is this one winning you over at all?
I am slightly worried that we were promised before the break, some kind of more paranormal happenings or evidence that would kind of bring the Val case back home. And we immediately after the break departed to a completely different UFO sighting. That is only connected by being in the same, state?
Yeah, it's the same state around a similar time.
Okay.
These are also military documents that were declassified, so these are real cases, Look, do you know how you make a burger better?
This analogy can't be going anywhere. There's
By
no way.
adding fries. That's how you do it. By adding a dip. And that's what we're doing today. We are making our burger better
There's no
by
patty.
adding fries.
I think we currently have a burger bun, arguably
Sure.
lettuce and burger sauce. But
Some onions
there's
for sure.
There's
There's
no
a couple
there's no
onions in
patty,
there.
and I'm worried you're skipping straight to fries. I'm worried you're adding, and I'm worried that the more I complain, you're like, you know what? Let me throw in a large fries on the house, and I'm like, right, but the patty, brother, because I ordered a cheeseburger and I got everything but the
burger.
BURGER.
It's coming. In the meantime, we've got regular fries, waffle fries, sweet potato fries, and a single pea. A pea on a plate.
Glowing the brightness of the sun.
Which I know you're going to love. So yeah, this is just all supporting the case, and then we're going to come right back around with that burger that you ordered.
Milkshake.
That burger's coming. The beef is on the way, don't you worry. But until then, of course, yes, more fries. We've got, don't order the garlic bread, because yes, we have another UFO that took place in the very same year. This was known as the General Mills UFO.
Okay, I like that it's the same year. That is something.
This sighting involved 3 research engineers at General Mills Aeronautical Laboratories. And I'm not saying this one is a big deal, but this case was a 40-page report inside of Project Blue Book.
Okay.
On October 15th, 1953, engineers noticed a strange patch of white smoke near where they were conducting experiments. When they tracked it, this smoky object appeared to be moving at over 900 miles per hour.
Why are we in 1953? I thought you said this happened the same year.
Same year as the last sighting that I mentioned.
Oh,
Not
God.
the same year as the burger.
Damn it.
It's the same year as the fries. The same year as the fries. Yeah, because fries come at the same time. So yeah, this is the same year as the fries we just talked about. This is adjacent to the P. This is previous or just after the P. Okay?
You know, I don't want to get too deep in the fries analogy, but in the process of asking for my burger, Roy was like, you know what? Let's get some gravy, sauce, and cheese curd on these fries to make it, that's right, a completely different meal. That poutine, that Canadian classic. Okay, fine. This is the same year as the other case, fine.
As the P, this is white smoke moving at 900 miles per hour. Before immediately turning and diving straight down towards the Earth, where it began to glow before disappearing into a flash.
White smoke.
Traveling at 900 miles per hour, starts to glow, and then disappears into thin air.
Okay.
In the report by Project Blue Book, they said there were several unusual factors with this sighting, such as the speed, the lack of sound, and that the vertical dive was a, quote, highly dangerous, if not suicidal maneuver, if this was being done with an aircraft. You know, because the planes back in 1953, they went up and they went down, and they didn't do any more than that. There were no barrel rolls, there were no loop-de-loops. It was pretty much up, down. No one's turning at 90 degrees in the sky and free falling towards the Earth before ripping up in zero gravity.
Well, I feel like you are, depending on how fast this is happening, you are describing just any general air show. You know, like we have, for example, we're recording here in Ireland, we have an annual air show.
Yeah.
So I watched the other day a literal, like, period accurate Spitfire perform that thing where it is nuts every time you see it. When they go up really, really high and then turn off the engine and then completely fall for like a vertical mile.
Yeah.
And then they turn on the engine and Indiana Jones style back into the air.
Pretty cool.
Which is what you were describing in a very old vehicle.
Yeah.
I assume the point is that this is maybe happening at a more aggressive angle or speed.
At 900 miles per hour.
Yeah,
Sorry,
how did they get that number, by the way?
your Spitfire, that's crazy that you saw this, because it was white smoke,
I'm just saying, you just said in 1953 planes could only go up and down. And you said they couldn't, quote, fall vertically and then turn back on and fly up again. I'm like, I literally saw that about 2 weeks ago at an air show.
Yeah, but they didn't flash white, did they? And they didn't disappear into thin air.
Well, they were a bit of smoke.
Were they the size of a pea? Were they the size of a pea? If not, then quiet.
But everything is the size of a pea held at arm's distance if you're far enough away.
Like, it kind of was.
Yeah.
Pea size, yeah. All right, look, I can tell maybe that one isn't winning you over. I almost had you with the pea. But don't worry. We got one more round of fries coming for the table. And this is just on the house because I know the burger's late. So don't worry about it. More fries.
The burger honestly got lost. It is lost. It fell down the back of the grill. We got a couple teenagers trying to fish it out. And it was
not looking good.
And it was the last one in the freezer too. So we really got to get this thing back.
A white light hit the burger at 100 miles per hour and the burger is cooked.
The burger's bent at 90 degrees.
Finally, we have the flying saucer in Hamel. I'm a little bit worried that this one isn't going to do me any favors because I am conscious that a few episodes ago we did have to make a rule on the podcast that said you weren't allowed to include a witness if they were under 10 years old. But in 1984, two boys, so if you add their ages together, that makes them men, aged 8 and 10, saw a UFO land in their garden.
Yo, that's crazy.
They said the object spun around once, then shot up in the air and disappeared.
And no one else saw it. That's a bummer.
Hey, look, Kit, you might not take this report seriously, but the government sure did. In fact, the boys were visited by the FBI.
Wow.
Which, what are you getting out of that?
How are you even
having a meeting with an 8-year-old boy as an FBI agent?
Like, that's when you know your house is wired. If the feds were listening to everything my 2-year-old daughter says, we'd be getting investigated every third day. Like, my door just goes some dark evening. It's 2 FBI agents. Hello, we need to discuss reports of a giant pig that went in a rocket ship to the moon. It's like, no, my daughter was watching Peppa Pig. She was playing with Peppa Pig.
Where is she? We need to talk to the witness.
The pig went in a rocket ship. Sir, we're going to need you to look into this device.
Neutralize the mail. Yeah, is this FBI agent like sitting at one of those tiny desks with his knees up to his ears? Just being like, we need you to draw a picture of what you witnessed that evening. I don't think they're going to get a lot out of him. But at the scene, the FBI did note a large indentation in the yard. The ground was dented and protruding rocks had been leveled, the document read.
Hey, I can't throw too many stones in this here glass house because one of my favorite cases is the aerial school phenomenon, Zimbabwe UFO sighting, and that one was pretty much only kids saw that one.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is I'm going to need these kids to at least be kind of in the head for life, kind of the way those kids were in Zimbabwe. That would really help me if they were kind of psychologically suffering the effects.
Weird to want that in a case.
I don't want it for them, but it makes the case a lot more believable.
I unfortunately don't have any information on how the kids are doing now. Okay. That would be borderline weird. But I can tell you that the FBI took it really seriously. They took pictures of the site, collected dirt samples, and sent them to a laboratory for evaluation. So, I don't know, maybe this was a time with Project Blue Book, they were taking every claim incredibly seriously. Or maybe they knew more than they were letting on, and they were like, hey, we saw something on radar around this area prior to when these boys said they saw a UFO.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
It goes to show that the military was on absolutely high alert regarding anything. But sadly, we've talked a lot about Project Blue Book over the years, this period of history, and it's all a bit confusing, and no one piece of information really clears anything up. Yes, they were on high alert. That's because of the Cold War. The World War II had just ended. Cold War had begun, and a kind of tech and arms race with places like Russia was in full effect. So were they worried about extraterrestrials? Yes, because we do have written confirmation that there was multiple UFO investigatory projects put into effect at this time. Were they also worried about other countries just having more advanced technology than them? Absolutely. And those two are kind of inextricable. At what point are they worried about national security, and at what point are they covering up real UFO sightings?
Yeah, I mean, I think if your case is ending up in Project Blue Book, it's the aliens. It's the UFOs.
That is potentially true, but even Project Blue Book, you have to remember, Project Blue Book essentially concluded that there were almost zero even believable UFO sightings. Project Blue Book concluded saying that almost every UFO
Don't listen to him.
UFO case
Don't listen to him.
was
He's
explainable
lying.
by a pretty simple, real phenomenon. I will say...
we're recording at his house right now, and when I walked in, I saw a check from the government on his desk.
He didn't.
So whatever, just take that with a grain of sand.
Hey, this studio would be looking a lot nicer on YouTube.com if I was cashing checks from NASA.
I'm hosting a case about the paranormal, and there is a hired actor sitting across from me.
I'm trying to throw you a bone here and say that while Project Blue Book was largely saying UFO sightings are inconclusive,
Sure.
J. Allen Hynek, one of the key members of Project Blue Book, he did later say that there was a unrealistic expectation by the Department of Defense for Project Blue Book to explain away paranormal phenomenon, and that they were basically required to come down on not believing in UFO sightings.
Right. Yeah. That was kind of a forced conclusion.
So it was a kind of murky... They were allowed to investigate, but only up to a point, and with sometimes forced conclusions.
I mean, don't interview kids then, Alan. Don't interview an 8-year-old boy as a witness that you can be like, no, it's real. Listen to what Billy said he saw in the garden. It's like, no, don't do that. You're not helping yourself.
Yeah, it's not helping things.
Look, those are just some examples of a few of the other UFO sightings that took place in Minnesota. Honestly, regret bringing up the P. I feel like that one has kind of overshadowed our main case that is the most important one we're dealing with today.
We have never seen that before in an episode of This Paranormal Life.
So what do we think happened to Val Johnson? One important thing to note is Johnson himself has never outright claimed that what hit his car was an alien craft. His entire life, he's maintained the fact that he doesn't know what he saw, which is kind of funny because you'd think that would support the case for it not being an alien craft, but weirdly for me, that does the exact opposite. I'm like, so you're telling me he's not even trying to convince people himself that he saw an alien? Then he definitely did. He's got no agenda, no reason to convince anyone. That means it 100% was an alien.
Val is the paranormal equivalent of playing hard to get. Rory's a woman at the bar that's like, there's all these guys at the bar trying to talk to me, but there's one hottie in the corner who's completely ignoring me. You're telling me he's not even interested? Oh, that makes him even hotter. I need to get with this guy.
I'm about to hit him at 90 miles per hour.
It's like the logic is so backwards. You're telling me he doesn't think it's a UFO? Oh yeah, it's gotta be a UFO.
It's like we say, after sightings like this or UFO encounters, if the next thing you do is release a book, sell the rights to Hollywood, and start touring conventions talking about the skin color of the Gazorgons, that's usually a sign that you probably are making it up for some various reason. But if 30 years, 40 years on, you're like, I don't know what it was. I'm not telling you it's a UFO because I don't know what it was. For me, that's a good sign. That's a green flag.
Hey, Rory, I wonder who was paying Val's pension whenever he finally retired. Oh yeah. Granted, I don't know how that shit works, but probably the federal government. So I'm going to guess that little pension plan was probably, it might have even been looking a little healthier. Might have even looking a little healthier after the crash. As long as, Val just got a little letter in the post a couple of weeks later. Hey, Val, I'm sorry to hear about your crash. Also, forget we said that. We don't know about that crash. Hey,
what's up?
Good news.
just writing you.
That pension plan's looking real nice. That pension plan's looking real nice right now, Val. Why don't you take early retirement? 20 years early, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like they're going to kill him. So that's,
No.
This is confusing.
Just, hey, why don't you go chill? Why don't you go, hey, we know you like fishing, Val. Why don't you take this extra little money? You go fishing, ideally somewhere real far away, where no one's going to be talking to you about.
Again, those are threats. This sounds like a bad thing.
It really, I think they really want him to go fishing.
You want me to go with the fishies?
Not sleeping with the fishies. Fill in the blank with any other hobby or activity for retired people.
How'd you like to go to a better place?
No.
Better place from Minnesota.
An all expenses paid cruise around the world.
Yeah. You never know. Maybe Val could have spent all these years with a nice little paycheck in his pocket to say that he doesn't know what it was. But honestly, I believe him. I don't think he does know what this thing was. The worst part is, I think he did see it, but it's just so bright, whatever it was, that's all it was to him, was just light.
Yeah, of course.
Before he blacked out. Now, a lot of the time when we're investigating these older UFO cases, we have a problem. Physical evidence. Either there is no physical evidence, or there was some and now it's gone, or MIBs stormed in and swept the place clean. But what's really interesting about Val Johnson's case is that we still have the evidence. If you go to the Marshall County Historical Society in Warren, Minnesota, you can see for yourself Val Johnson's squad car, still damaged from the events of that night. They have it in display in the museum. You can literally go and see the car that was hit that night. How cool is that?
I will say the police force were obviously pretty chill about this whole thing. There wasn't really any attempt to cover up any of this, given that I was surprised earlier when you said that he was able to make appearances all over media, give many interviews, TV appearances, and then later that his squad car was allowed to be turned into a museum.
Yeah. The best part is we actually had this case emailed into us. It was a listener submission from L.M. Peterson, who sent us an email and said, cop out in patrol in Minnesota, sees a light, drives towards it. He wakes up in the ditch half an hour later with burns around his eyes. The windshield and one headlight are smashed. The watch on his wrist and the clock on the dash were 14 minutes slow. And the best part is they still have the cop car. L.M. Peterson says you can see it at the Little County Museum with all the damage from that night in 1979. I live nearby and attached some photos that I took of it.
Crazy how they just said in an email what you have taken the last 45 minutes to explain to us. We're arguably no further in the explanation or story.
That was the equivalent of going to McDonald's and you order the burger and they just hand it to you. It was like pre-made on the rack behind. They're like, yeah, here it is. But my case, I needed to take you on a journey, kid. I had to tell you about the pea. And now we've reached the part where I can show you the photos taken by Leslie Peterson. Check this out.
Yeah, damn, this is cool. This person has this museum so close by. It definitely brings the story to life to see it. And I would say in person, it would be even more visceral. This thing is totally untouched from the 70s. And it is still smashed to bits, yeah.
That's the cool thing that I really like about this case is, I think whenever we talk about UFO cases, or especially older cases, it's just throwing around locations and names and dates and a lot of claims being made, but very little evidence to back it up. There's something so cool about, when you're debating whether or not this happened, you're like, you can go see the car. It's literally still there. It's in a museum. You can view it yourself. You can watch news reports with Val in it. Like, here he is. This is what he looks like. This is what he says happened. There's a lot of physical and digital evidence to back this case up and remind you that this wasn't a story that was told at a pub. This was mostly, whether you believe it or not, an event that did take place.
And maybe this kind of physical evidence, which is not, I suppose, let's say primary evidence. It's not the alien going gibbity-gobbity-go. It's something that has interacted potentially and allegedly with something from another planet.
Yeah.
So this is almost like, back in the day, ironically the 70s or whenever, when they were kind of keeping physical samples from, let's say, murders, blood samples, pieces of clothing, fabric, in the hopes that one day they would be able to use that to prosecute criminals. And they did. They created new technology to be able to go back and gene sequence and DNA test these old pieces of physical evidence. And they were able to solve historic crimes, go back and 50 years later, bust someone for a murder or some kind of crime or theft. Maybe something like that will be possible someday. We'll figure out some new kind of, carbon testing or whatever that they can do to that windscreen and say, oh shit, actually, this is consistent with these other materials that have come from beyond Earth.
Yeah, we'll be like, that smudge, that's a fingerprint? Oh, now we know what aliens' fingers look like. We can figure out who did this. And then we'll have to kind of fly back to their planet and arrest this person for hit and run charges.
Yeah. In 20 years' time, they're like, updating the Val Johnson case. There's no easy way to say this, but there was alien jizz in the car. We haven't really figured out. Thank God Val's dead. Thank God Val's dead, because I think that would really hurt to hear. But there's alien jizz in the car, and we don't really know what to. Honestly, press conference over.
When he said he got flashed, it's all starting to make sense. It's all starting to make sense now. Yeah, poor son of a bitch. Val Johnson in this story is actually a big part of the local community. For example, in 2019, Warren residents celebrated the 40th anniversary of the deputy's encounter with a public event featuring live music, an alien costume contest, and a dramatic reenactment of Johnson's radio call.
Cool.
The last part seems a bit insensitive, because surely he had just woken up from being unconscious and crashed his car, and people are doing impressions, being like, oh, help, I think I pissed myself. Oh, I'm Val Johnson. I need backup.
I mean, or not. You tried to make him sound like a square-jawed all-American hero.
Because he is to me, all right? Because he's someone who went through a paranormal experience and he's dead now, but he was around for a long time to talk about it.
Went through an experience for sure.
Interesting facts as well. This is the real-life UFO story that I believe inspired a season of Fargo and also an episode of The X-Files.
Yeah.
So this case is prominent enough, even in pop culture and in the world of paranormal enthusiasts, that it's inspired a lot of people and a lot of stories since then. It's honestly crazy that we haven't covered it until now.
Yeah. I mean, it's very cinematic, and it's really right up there with, I think this kind of interaction, this kind of paranormal experiences is like kind of commonplace. It feels like no matter what like arena of work, no matter what line of work you speak to people in, if you talk to truck drivers who drive across the country late at night, they'll talk about the things they've seen or the things they've heard that other people have seen.
Yeah.
If you talk to pilots, if you talk to people who are really out there, and crucially, there's a kind of a fraternity around or community around, that word gets around amongst those people, you know, whereas if something happens to just an individual in society, you know, they might tell their friends and their family, but it might not get out amongst that kind of working community. So it's not surprising to me that this is, I would say if you talk to other police officers in that area, or even just across the entire country, I'd say it would probably be hard to find one who hadn't at least heard of a story.
Right. Yeah. It spreads within these communities. I mean, Kit, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
So don't.
what we have is the perfect UFO case. You know, sometimes we're trying to decide whether a guy called Chuck who lives in a shack was really abducted and probed or not.
Yeah.
We're always looking for believable witnesses and physical evidence.
Yeah.
A UFO hit a cop car. It crashed into a police officer, and it didn't go invisible or phase through it. It hit the windshield. It cracked it. Oh, but we don't have the car anymore, right? We do. It's in a museum. We still have it all.
Something hit the car for sure. Something hit that car for sure. The car's real. We know that much. The car's a yes. Hey, yes to the car.
Yes to the car.
Yes to Val Johnson.
Look, before we
The
go
other
into
stuff.
before we go into conclusions, I just want to remind everyone what we're dealing with here. Just like Leslie did so well in the email. We have a cop.
This feels like a disgraced CEO going into like a shareholders meeting, being like, just before we hand it over to the floor, let me remind you all the dope stuff that happened this year, guys.
Yeah.
Remember when we hit that great earnings call at the start of this year? Oh, that was exciting.
Just before we address, inevitably, the sexual harassment lawsuit, I just want to remind some people about the numbers I hit in Q1.
Yeah, we had a great year until July. Yeah,
that was a bad one. Look, we had a police officer, saw a light in the sky, was then hit by the light. The
light was 2 miles away. I don't know where these guys get these numbers from, but 2 miles is very far away.
Yeah, he had to chase this thing down. It hit the car, headlight, windscreen smashed, radio antennas bent. That's all quite strange. On top of that, you've got the clock in the car and his watch both running 14 minutes slow while he was unconscious. We've got welder's burns in his eyes. His corneas were damaged because whatever hit the car was so unbelievably bright, it would have been illegal to be on a road. Then we have people going to the scene the next day, not finding a trace of anything there, any evidence of an object colliding with the car. That leads us to the conclusions. Kit, what's your head at today?
We got no explanation on the missing time of the clocks.
No.
By the way, what's the idea? Why did the clock stop?
Look, missing time is a popular thing that happens in a lot of alien abductions, where people blink and it feels like only a moment has passed, and then they check their watches and it's been 45 minutes. We also have cases where people get abducted at certain times and then dropped off, and the amount of times that they were gone, like something interferes with the electronics that they have, and the time for them was slower or stopped. And then when the events restarted again, the watches kind of resync. It's just a layer of the mystery.
Yeah, because we know why Val was missing time, because he cracked his forehead on the steering wheel and was drooling over the car for 40 minutes because he was knocked out. He drifted for 800 feet, for Christ's sake. But yeah, the clocks themselves.
I don't know if there is an explanation. I guess maybe they're just like, look, if this was paranormal, if this was a UFO, something hit him. There were 14 minutes of essentially stopped time. Something happened.
That's a big claim.
Something happened. Something happened. We don't know. I'm not claiming to know.
Stopped.
Or maybe it was like an EMP blast that fried the electronics. But whatever it was, it stopped them for 14 minutes before they restarted.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you say, compelling evidence for this case in the sense of the car, the testimony, it clearly happened in some sense. A collision took place.
Yeah.
Occasionally we have cases like this where the physical event takes place, but it's everything after the fact or everything before the fact. In this case, did that really happen? That is where I'm struggling, because this all hinges on us saying that this light is from another planet.
Mm.
And if we're saying this
we're just saying it's paranormal. It's not the normal, something
right, but we're
unknown,
heavily implying this is a UFO.
Well, you never know. It's pretty small. This could have been anything. It could have been a research drone from the mothership.
Oh, I wanted to bring up how small it is, because we're also saying then that if this is paranormal, if it's a UFO, if it's of alien origin, it's unmanned unless these things are bug-sized. So it could be some kind of off-world technology, but then we do get dangerously into the territory of, yes, I understand this is quite a long time ago, 1979. We're getting dangerously into the territory of things like drones. If we're saying this is unmanned, there was no bibbidi-bobbidi-boop crafting this thing.
Sure.
It's just a chunk of metal, some kind of little drone, some kind of little hovering light that just smashed into a cop car.
I feel like a drone that size wouldn't be able to produce a light so bright that it burns a man's corneas.
I mean, sure, but like Occam's I'd play my Yu-Gi-Oh! Trump card here. Occam's razor. I play Pot of Greed. This is what I'm saying. It is, to me, this is, it's really compelling, but it's not beyond obvious here that this is guaranteed UFO off-world technology, right? A crash took place, and we're saying the light is too bright to be from Earth?
You're forgetting about the P, I feel like. We've seen small crafts.
Forgetting about the P. I'm trying to...
We've seen smaller crafts 20 years earlier in government declassified
Does
documents.
a P even count as a craft, by the way?
Depends on the size of the pilot, doesn't it?
There is no pilot. Rory, where's your head at today?
I think if you're saying no to this case, there is no hope for any other UFO case in the history of the paranormal. Everything that we usually want, that's usually missing in a UFO story, we have it today. We have literally
everything except an alien. Everything except alien.
You never have him. You never have him.
We in too many stories we've got green guys like who are looking through a window with binoculars at the policeman.
Yeah, those are all of the ones we say no to usually. When there's a guy with a ray gun that comes out, it's like, all right, you've gone too far. This case is fantastic. We have a believable witness. We have physical evidence. We have a physical interaction with the world. We're not even looking at this car and being like, oh, they say that it was slightly radioactive. The thing's broken. Whatever it was, it hit the windshield.
They said it wasn't radioactive, by the way.
Yeah, that's a little disappointing. But let me tell you, I think this is a great story. And I think it is completely unexplained to the point where I'm going to say that today's case, it's paranormal. I'm giving it a yes.
I can feel that the listeners are going to be getting out their pitchforks because we got a controversial one. I am going to say no. I'm going to say no because I disagree with what Rory is saying, that in other UFO cases, of course, we have many, many cases which go too far the other way, too far into the, like, I hate hearing descriptions of alien greys more than anyone at this point because they're so tried and true. But we're missing the patty. We're missing the patty.
The patty hit the windshield
We've got
at 90
everything.
miles per hour
Yeah.
and flashbanged a dude so hard that he blacked out for 40 minutes and the clock stopped and he burnt his eyes.
We have a collision. We have a collision.
You are a dead man. And not by my hands. I am going to have to hold back the listeners of this podcast from strangling you to death. I cannot believe that you just gave this case a no. Hey, I hope you enjoyed hearing the last ever UFO story on this podcast, because there's no point. There's no point anymore if this doesn't get a yes.
The guy saw a light,
Crazy.
crashed into a light.
This is insane.
No flight pattern that was kind of outside the possibility of kind of crafts
So
that
what
we
was
know
it?
of
What
on
was it?
Earth. I mean,
what
it
was
was
it?
investigated by Project Blue Book, but clearly it didn't come up. Now that we mention it, didn't come up in that giant ATIP government investigation we did a couple of months back. So I guess Project Blue Book must have said it was inconclusive. So even
They
J.
said
Allen
it was-
Hynek himself.
They said it was unexplained.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is Project Blue Book's version of we don't know.
Okay.
It was unexplained. It was paranormal. We
No.
don't have the answers.
No.
Kit is a dead man.
We have
You're done for.
We have crafts the size of a pea. So completely unmanned.
You know what? Because I'm here now and I'm in your house. Do you want a hand boarding up the windows? Do you want me to go get you a couple extra padlocks for the front door?
The guy who
I
was
mean, it
in
won't
the
make a
cr-
difference
the
when
guy
they
who was
burn
in the
it
crowd-
down. When they burn it down, you'll just be extra crispy from the logs on the windows.
The guy who was in the crash didn't even think it was aliens. He said he just didn't know what it was.
Unexplained. Mm-hmm. And
I think the word
unexplained.
unexplained doing a lot of heavy lifting, I noticed.
Hey, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, man. If you can honestly believe that you think that there is a logical explanation to today's case, then you're a lost cause. You're a lost cause, and genuinely, I might actually just join the rioters. Hell, what's one more set of hands on your neck gonna do? Not gonna make a difference.
I guess my last thought,
Your last living thought, for sure.
I guess my last word on this kind of case, which is not so specific to this. It's not so specific to any UFO case in particular. I saw a post online the other day. It was a pretty cool post on Instagram where someone was like, hey, here's a photo from 2015 where a photographer in somewhere in America, for example, they were taking some landscape shots and they noticed something pretty crazy in the sky. And they zoomed in and zoomed in and zoomed in using their digital camera until you could see a pretty wild image of some kind of triangle-shaped object flying very fast overhead.
Okay.
And I mean, it would have been a cool UFO investigation, but people pretty quickly worked out online. They were like, that shape, that triangle object, looks suspiciously close to supposedly cancelled US Air Force plans from 1991 over 24 years earlier of an experimental craft, which was basically an entire triangle with a cockpit in the front of it. Cancelled in 1991 and yet flying above the heads of people in America in 2015 or 2014, whenever it was. It serves as a reminder that there is a constant level of what we do not know about what either our own government or US government or any world government is testing at any given time. The technology they are admitting to having is not the full picture. And even in the case of a Project Blue Book, which is presumably a Defense Department or US Air Force, even they probably didn't have a handle on all the technology being used at that time.
Hey, look, I respect your choice. You know, that's your decision to make. All I'm saying is keep your windows shut at night, keep your doors locked.
You're the
because-
threat. No one has threatened. You've
It's,
threatened me
the-
about 6 times since going down the conclusion. You're like, hey, it's not me. But between you and me, look over your shoulder for the rest of this afternoon, bud.
Oh, you're going to be sleeping like a princess. The princess with a pea under her mattress. That's right, an
A
alien craft.
radioactive pea.
Hey, me, right? Thanks for listening to today's episode, I guess.
Don't be weird about it.
Good luck to Kit, I think, in the following days.
It's kind of a feature of the show. It's kind of like, what would be the point in us not both getting a vote? We've disagreed on many cases over the years.
Wild. There's no hope ever, I guess, of ever getting a double yes on a UFO case.
I've given a yes
Kit
to
needs
so
see
many
it himself,
UFO
and then
cases.
he'll probably still say no. I don't know what to do with my weekend now. I'm at odds. So
Well, it's
should we do
Tuesday.
shout outs or something?
It's
What do you want to do?
Tuesday. I don't know why you're worried about your weekend.
Do you want to do shout outs or something? I actually don't care anymore. I'll be honest.
Yeah, we do have shout outs.
Do you really want to shout out the names of your murderers? Do you want to do that? Do you want to give them that honor?
They're going to understand. I'm sure they're going to understand. So, thank you for listening to this week's podcast. I think Rory's kind of white hot rage, I think, emanating from that side of the desk. So
you got
I'm
a
just
lot
gonna
of
wrap
nerve
this
to
up.
thank them for listening.
Thank you
Insane.
for listening to this week's podcast, all about a great case. A great case. Let's clap that one out because that's some great investigation. And
You're done for.
I'm really trolling him at this point. But if you can't get
Your
enough
days are numbered, bud.
UFO case,
Your days are numbered. I'd start running now. I wouldn't even stay for the outro because you could get a couple more minutes ahead down the road.
I think I actually need to keep talking and recording because I think if I hit stop of the Zoom recorder, he's gonna hit me. Once the cameras stop rolling, I think he's just gonna swing. So let's just keep this going, guys. If you can't get enough This Paranormal Life, remember to check out patreon.com/This Paranormal Life, where you can get tons of bonus episodes, full-length investigations of This Paranormal Life, as well as weekly behind the scenes.
And please,
on a little thing we got, huh?
Yes, please, on patreon.com. That's the best place to support the show. And we really do need your support, as Kit will be entering the witness protection program. So just on the cosmetic surgery alone that we're going to need to change his stupid face.
Okay. Whoa.
We're going to have to change it to something that you guys won't recognize so you won't kill him. We're going to have to get him like a log cabin in the woods somewhere.
No one said anything. No one said anything but you yet about killing me. So
head on over to patreon.com. Honestly, I need the financial support now because I no longer have a podcast. I don't have a show anymore.
you do.
It's done for.
It's not that big a deal.
It's done for. I also need a ticket now, apparently, to go to Minnesota and check out this car for myself. And that will be a solo trip because Kit doesn't think the car exists. Isn't that crazy? The picture I showed him.
I said the museum was cool. I said it was a really cool idea.
We're done for. Thank you to Leslie Peterson for submitting that case. We really appreciate it. I am so sorry that you obviously love the show. You're a huge fan. You took a risk sending us this email. Back in 2021, you've been waiting for this response. And Kit shit all over you. All over your pictures.
I actually think should probably be pretty stoked that we covered the case. I mean, because really, it's not about the conclusion at the end in some sense. It's that we talk about the story, have fun learning about it, and look into it a little bit ourselves.
Disagree. Thank you. You also get shout outs. I forgot to say that. You get shout outs at the end of the podcast. So let's shout out some of these people. All right, we got Quark. Oh, Quark's gonna get you.
Okay.
Quark's gonna be first one through the door. Quark is foaming at the mouth.
Really?
You have insulted
Someone called
them
Quark
and their
is
beliefs
foaming at the mouth.
in the UFOs.
A quark is like a subatomic particle, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah.
So it's even smaller than a pea.
You're not gonna see it coming. Quark is gonna go through the walls, phase through the walls, straight into your room at night.
It's gonna be like I'm gonna be like Timothée Chalamet trying to dodge that little drone in his room.
Or like Val Johnson trying to dodge like a small UFO traveling incredibly fast with a bright light. It's another example of something that happened. Thank you, Quark. Do you want to do any more?
Sometimes you wonder,
do you want to do any more?
like,
Should we call
he
it
didn't
there?
write the book. Maybe that would have been more good, but like if he wrote the book saying it was an alien, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else do we need to shout out?
The first one didn't go great, so I think maybe we stop it there because I'm like, it's such a bad mood that it's like I don't think anyone's going to enjoy
Just
their shout outs.
Pass it to me, and I
This
can just
week.
shout them out, and you can kind of stew over there, I think. So a special thank you to With Davis.
Hey, you know what I always say?
Mm-hmm.
You're either with me or against me. Against me like Kit, or with me like with. Because I know they were giving it a yes.
Yeah.
That whole conclusion, they were probably like, yes, and then you took them right down. So thank you for your support. Apologies for what happened at the end there, but still appreciate it.
I thought you weren't going to talk.
Appreciate it.
I thought you were going to talk for the shoutouts because you said you were in such a bad mood.
Yeah, but just, yeah.
So thank you next up, thank you so much to Leanne Navarra. You know, with Leanne, there's Navarra Dulde. Navarra Dulde. With Leanne, because Leanne's so exciting to be around, you know?
Leanne, I need a new man to podcast with. Because
Yeah.
Kit's gone. He's dead to me.
All right.
So how's that for a dull day? Hey, let me tell you what, bud. You're not going to have another dull day for the rest of your life. Because you're on the run 24/7.
Thank you also to Zero.
That's how many hours you got left.
Yeah. All right.
That's your BPM, your heart.
I'm pretty sure everything you're saying is like admissible in court as like evidence. Like, you must know that if something happens to me, even if it wasn't you, everything you're saying is so violent and threatening and so thinly veiled. You have to know they're going to come down on you like a sack of potatoes.
Well, how are they going to do that? Because they got zero evidence.
Right. Thank you, Zero.
I'll do 0 years behind bars.
For what you did or going to do.
No, for nothing, because I
Right.
didn't commit any crimes. Well, you'll be 6 feet under.
Okay. Thanks so much, Zero. Thanks lastly today to Curtis Fawson.
Curtis has learnt what hurt is. That's when you put everything on the line. You give it your all. You tell a story you're passionate about, and you open up to a buddy, and they slap you in the face.
What about that was opening up?
They shut you down. They tell you that you believe in lies, and they make you feel like garbage on your own podcast. But don't worry, Curtis, because that person might not be around for long. And while you'll go on to live a happy life, they'll live a short, scared life. So, I think that about wraps us up, right? Well, wraps you up for sure.
Curtis, Curtis, I'm just gonna, because Curtis, presumably you're the only one still listening to this train wreck. So help, if you could just send for help, and if you're receiving this,
I'm told you, it's not me, it's them. They're coming for you.
is them your alter ego? Because you keep talking about what they are gonna do to me when no one's heard this yet.
I mean, look, usually when we disagree at the end of a podcast, we say, hey, we'll throw it up on socials. We'll do a poll. We want to find out what you guys think. Is it a yes or a no this week? This episode, I don't even know if there's a point, brother. Just start running now.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I will. So that just about wraps it up. I'm going to stand up.
All right.
I think I just need to get a head start on Rory. I think that much has become clear.
I'm not going to do anything. I might hold
so
you
I'm
down.
gonna let you
I might hold you
wrap
down,
up.
but they'll do the
wrap
punches.
up from the other side of the room. So thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Had a great time. Cheers.
Just start running now.
Okay.
You're losing time.
See you next week. All right.
All right.
Shit, I need a glass of water.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you appreciated it. Apologies for Kit once again. Let us know whether or not you think this episode was just go. Was a yes or a no. And of course, we will be back next week. As always,
Forgot my phone.
he's back again.
Forgot my phone.
Okay. I'm just about to end, and then we're uploading, and they're going to be coming.
Okay. All right.
Stay away from Minnesota. They will not like you there. We'll be back next week for another paranormal tale. Bye-bye.